Hello students, and welcome to the next lesson in our AS level economics course. Today we're going to be looking at taxation. What is a tax? Taxation is a way of increasing production costs from the firm as they make products. This then raises the cost of production, and as a result we can tax the demerit goods. It shifts the supply curve to the left when we implement a tax. So now we'll look at the types of taxation. We can have direct taxation, which is taxation on income and profits. And then we could have indirect taxation in microeconomics, and this is a tax on spending. Now we'll show taxes on graphs. Here we have a standard supply and demand graph. Now at point A we have our equilibrium. If we implement a tax, we're going to be increasing the cost of producing a good because they're going to be made more expensive. So as a result, we shift the curve to the left. And then we get point B. As we can see, the price raises from P to P1, and the quantity supplied of the good decreases from Q to Q1. As a result, we can tax demerit goods to reduce the quantity of them and then reduce externalities. Depending on the elasticity of the demand, however, the tax will be worse off for either the consumer or the producer, who will have to pay the cost of the tax. This is called the burden of the tax. Now we'll look at the tax burdens. Here we have a very, relatively inelastic demand curve. Here we're going to implement a tax as the supply curve increases. Now at point B, we're going to see the effect of the tax. How we measure it is that between the P and P1, we put a C in that box, and that's called the effect on the consumer. Then we have to draw another box between P and the first supply curve, and this is the effect on the producer. What we can see from this is that on an inelastic demand curve, the consumer has to pay most of the burden of the tax, and the producer has to pay very little. So as a result, when a tax is implemented on a good that has inelastic demand, most of that increase in cost is passed on to the consumer. Now we're going to have a look at the more elastic demand graphs, which are going to show the tax burden on elastic goods. So here we're going to increase the tax again, and we move this from point A to point B. So, as always, first we have to draw on the consumer, and this is the difference between P1 and P, and we put this in here. We then draw on the part for the producer, which is between P and the original supply graph. So, what we get is we can see that the elastic demand equals a tax burden that is larger on the producer. So, if we implement a tax on an elastic good, most of that tax will have to be paid by the producer. Now we'll look at the advantages and the disadvantages of taxation. The first of which is that taxes tend to be equitable most of the time. They also are able to fund the government to subsidize more merit goods, because if you tax something, you're getting the revenue as the government for that tax. You can then spend that money on more merit goods in order to produce more positive externalities and increase social welfare. Also, they're going to put people off consuming demerit goods, so they will decrease negative externalities. However, a disadvantage is that they can make the poor even poorer, and also they can make people who have to consume substitutes, which are even worse. Let's say, for example, we begin to tax cigarettes. As a result, people are going to have to find another way to use cigarettes, and they may perhaps turn to drugs. Drugs, however, produce even more socially undesirable outcomes and negative externalities on society, which wouldn't be good at all. They can also create black markets where these goods are sold without taxes, and these can produce negative externalities also. Here are some questions on taxation. Have a go at answering these on another sheet of paper by pausing the video, and then press play to see the answers. Here are the answers. If you got all of these right, congratulations. I'd advise you to move on to the next video, which will be on subsidies, the opposite to taxes. As always, thanks for watching and good luck in your exam.